One day, 237 souls gone. Tasha's body moved, distant and disparate from what her mind struggled to comprehend. The mission was lost. Bodies lay crumpled where routine tasks had taken each that day. There were no signs of struggle or sickness. They were just gone. Hope consumed by loss. Pain? The question framed in Tasha's mind without acknowledged origin. Hallucination, shock, a break. Exhausted legs gave way and Tash collapsed into the dirt. The deep rumble of idling machinery still vibrated the ground. Pain? The question again. Tash snorted. No one was left to care if she spoke to herself. Yes, we failed. A tickling sensation brought attention to her arms where dozens of small, ant-like insects gathered. They watched Tash, antennae quivering, curious, seeking, feeling. Home. This can never be home. They are all gone. No one else can come now. Home. Tash could feel the insects continuing to gather. Her head rolled to the side. They were there en masse, pushing forward, antennae brushing her cheek, mandibles opened, sharp stings followed by a sensation of falling. Here. Tash smiled as her body's last exhale joined the lavender sky. I understand. One day, 238 souls. Home. Hello, and welcome to The Bad Spot, an actual play podcast where I, Matt Risby, and I alone am playing through Ironsworn Starforged. This week's Tale from the Drift was from Chris Mitchell, who has kicked this season off in fine style with this piece, which manages to be quietly terrifying, yet beautiful and sad too, and I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to him for taking the time to pen this piece and send it in. Now, if you want to roll some dice and write something for me to read at the beginning of a future episode, then the submission guidelines and contact details are on screen now. And please bear in mind that with only a projected 23 episodes of this Starforged campaign remaining, and a fair few pieces of flash fiction already submitted, your window to get something featured on the show is closing rapidly, so please get a move on. And whilst I have you, why don't you leave a like, subscribe, and click the little bell icon so you can follow along with the campaign each and every week. These things are really important for supporting the channel and supporting what I do, and if you really want to support the channel, then why not check out the Bad Spot Patreon. There you'll get early access to all episodes, exclusive behind-the-scenes content, and your name on screen, like these lovely people. Right, where were we? It's been a while, hasn't it? I usually start with a recap, but a lot has happened, I feel. A lot. I have storylines and narrative threads from all the way back in Season 1, like 2021 that was, and they are all kind of converging and coming together, and there is just a lot going on. Now, do I have a firm grip of all this stuff? Absolutely not. I can assure you that I do not. And based on what happened last season, we could end up anywhere, and all I'm trying to do is kind of just try and wrangle and untangle all these threads into some kind of coherent narrative and make this fun for everyone. So where were we? We are here. We are in the Delphian flux on the deep space outpost of Lastport, formerly known as Paragon 6, and we're here because this is where we were taking Cole and the survivors of his crew that we rescued from a verdant world that we accidentally fell onto right the way back in the Season 2 opener. And that was the main thrust of last season, wasn't it? That was the kind of the main story. Archer fell through an iron gate onto a lush green planet, and he miraculously survived. And then he had to evade the planet's various wildlife, including the Arc Dragons, which were giant, terrifying spined dinosaurs that could discharge electricity. And he eventually discovered the survivors of a peacekeeping mission living in the mountains. Now, Archer hatched a plan to get them off planet, which involved activating the iron gate that he fell through and then leading the survivors through that on the backs of a flock of flying lizards, which was a lot of fun. And through that gate, they end up back on Sepulchre, which was now under the control of the Soulbinders, the creepy inquisitorial faction who appear to be using mystics known as shadows to perform their nefarious activities and also unlock the potential of the gates for themselves. Archer reunites here with Luna, and the two of them lead the survivors out of Sepulchre, escaping by the skin of their teeth. The conduit is gravely wounded in the escape, but they manage to stabilize her. And the most important thing that everyone learns in this kind of escapade is that using the iron gates appears to cause some kind of temporal distortion, and the survivors that Archer rescued seem to have lost somewhere in the region of 3 decades, despite only being stranded on the planet for a year or so. Blake Sutton, who aided them in their escape, helps them find sanctuary and gets the conduit the medical attention she needs. It is decided that Blake will stay with her, whilst Archer, Luna, Cole and the others must leave the sector immediately, because they are being actively tracked both by Clan Thorn and now the Soulbinders. To escape, they must take their chances and cross the spine of Kronos, a dangerous stretch of wild space no one has ever left alive. Now, we were in there for a few episodes, spanning several weeks, and they discovered all sorts, including, most importantly, a precursor vault, which also turned out to be a nexus in the Iron Gate network. They used that to escape and found themselves in a new sector, which you all helped me build on a live stream. And this sector is called the Delphian Flux and is a sector from which no one seems to be able to escape, where a faction known only as the Pact are in total control. They somehow have discovered a way to render E-Drive travel unusable, whilst they search the sector for a substance they call holy water, a liquid that has the power to dissolve black iron, because the Pact are trying to destroy the Iron Gates and purge mystics from existence, whilst the founder clans surround the sector with heavy blockades. Smaller organisations are vying for power too, and we have met Dr. Freeman, who runs Purgatory Outpost, where he sells his navigational algorithm to the highest bidder to allow them to escape the blockades. And we have also encountered the Crimson Shards, who are a secretive network of spies and information brokers. Our big bad, Azrael Vega, appears to have betrayed Clan Thorn in his quest to access the gates, and he has taken up with the Soulbinders, but the last time we saw him, he was being tracked by the Conduit and Blake Sutton, and he has become corrupted by some sort of powerful telekinetic energy, and doesn't seem to be able to control it all that well. Clan Thorn are also tracking him across the forge, as it appears that Vega might now be looking for Professor Darwin, who, as we discovered in the last episode, is alive. We left Archer and Luna searching for answers in Lastport, where bounty hunters who had been looking for the eclipse sprung into action and kidnapped Archer, leaving Luna and Griff desperately trying to find him. We also saw Professor Darwin remotely activate some sort of hidden secret protocol in Griff, who is now trying to escape Luna with a new directive. Does that cover it all? It feels like it sort of does, but in a kind of York Notes type way. There was an awful lot of other stuff that happened, and kind of if I'd have got into all of it, then this recap would have been like a full hour. But one important thing to remember before we launch into season 3 in this first episode is that Luna is currently injured. Because she was blown up in the gunfight with a bunch of fungal zombies, which was also something that happened without getting too much into it. That is something that went down last season and is an important detail. And the reason that Luna being injured is an important detail is because seeing as Archer Barlow has been kidnapped, and for what ends, we currently do not know, I will be playing as Luna. Now, I know this is something that some of you have wanted for a long time now, and some of you have really not been shy about telling me about it. So, congratulations. You get your wish. So, let's have a look at Luna's character sheet. So, the first thing you'll notice is that we are back at the standard stat array. Luna has Iron of 3, Edge and Heart at 2, and Shadow and Wits at 1. Now, The reason I went back to the standard stat array is to mainly kind of reflect how relatively inexperienced Luna is. Despite her obvious capabilities, she is still young and has lived the vast majority of her life in one place. So I kind of wanted to see that reflected in her stat line. However, Luna is also clearly incredibly capable and in many ways more so than Archer, so I'm going to do something different with her assets. She's going to have 3 paths rather than 2. They are Brawler, Gunner, and Gearhead. Because she can handle herself up close and personal and also from a distance, and she's also pretty handy when it comes to technical stuff. And what I'm going to do, in addition to letting her have an extra path, is I'm going to give her a free upgrade on each of these assets, which is going to make her a bit more dynamic to play than if I'd have just rolled her up from scratch. So we'll start her momentum off at 2 and her stats at full, including her health. Now, I know we had this discussion last season where her sidekick asset went down to 1 health and then back up to 4 when she received treatment, and I'll say now what I said then. Narratively, she is absolutely not at full health, even though she might be mechanically. Remember, she had a broken leg, broken hip, and broken arm, and is currently wearing an elaborate mechanical robotic brace on both her leg and arm. So I will be reflecting that in the narrative, even though on the sheet it says that she is tickety-boo. So she is in this crowded, dirty marketplace in an incredibly unsavory and dangerous outpost, and she's been kind of chasing this survey bot, Griff, that is kind of trundling now with a real kind of new purpose through the crowds, and he's kind of weaving between the legs of all these traders and all these hawkers kind of noisily going about their business. And Luna is not as mobile as she would like to be, and she's kind of struggling to keep up with him. And all the while, she realizes, like, she has absolutely no idea where the hell Archer is. And she can just feel, like, she just kind of knows. She has this sense that something is wrong. So Luna needs to find Archer. That is her objective. And she's not Ironsworn, so she's not going to swear an iron vow in the traditional sense, but she will certainly swear to complete this objective. So we'll make a move now. That move is going to be swear an iron vow, which says when you swear upon iron to complete a quest, which she won't do, write your vow and give it a rank. Okay, so let's write the vow. The vow is pretty simple. It's to find Archer Barlow. And I'm going to make this dangerous as a rank. I don't want to make it too much of a huge obstacle, otherwise we'll be here all season. Now, it also says if you share a bond with the person you're swearing a vow to, add +2. Now, do we have a bond? I mean, Luna has always kind of existed in this kind of messy space mechanically, because she started out when she stowed away on our ship as a connection that we started to slowly forge a bond with and kind of mark progress towards. And then she stuck around and became kind of like the co-lead of the show and most people's favourite character. So she then became a sidekick asset, which gave her kind of a bit more to do and kind of fleshed her out a little bit more. But still, that's not answering the question I asked. Do we have a bond? I'm going to say yeah. She's been around since like episode 8. And what is this? Episode, like, what, 49? So that's quite a lot of time to hang around. So I'm going to say we share a bond. So we are going to swear this iron vow to someone with which we share a bond. So rolling plus heart. That is a weak hit. It says, on a weak hit, you are determined, but begin your quest with more questions than answers. Take +1 momentum and envision what you do to find a path forward. So our momentum up to 3. And I think that kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Like, Luna is all sorts of out of her depth here. She's in an unfamiliar place, and she's starting to realize that she is all by herself. I mean, she has Griff with her, but he seems to kind of have his own thing going on now. And I think that as much as Luna would hate to admit it, she's sort of guided by Archer, and she kind of needs Archer. Their dynamic has always been like her bailing him out of trouble, or her impetuousness or hot-headedness, solving a problem before Archer has thought of the solution, because he's kind of more analytical and cautious. But that's kind of been flipped on its head of late, because down in the town of Mercy, whilst fighting the fungal zombies, the infected paragons, Luna was very nearly killed. And it was Archer who had to save her for once. And she won't want to admit this either. That whole episode has shaken her. And now she is here. She is alone. She is exposed. And she is vulnerable. So I think we're going to have to try and kind of survey the scene around us. Maybe try and figure out, maybe see if we can kind of work out where Archer has gone, or maybe kind of see some sort of evidence in the locale. Like, it's going to be difficult because it's so busy. And like, she's kind of visibly frustrated at how busy it is. There are people in her way, people kind of constantly moving past her. She's also annoyed at Griff, who is now kind of spouting cryptic nonsense about going someplace she's never heard of, and she's kind of unable to see through the crowds and or hear over the din of the traders kind of shouting and kind of bartering with each other. So she sees an opportunity in the form of some crates kind of just off to the side, and with her leg kind of still hampering her, she clambers up like awkwardly on top of them, so she can perhaps try and get a better look, put her in a better position to pick this needle from a haystack. And this is going to be a move, and that move is gather information, which says when you search for clues, conduct an investigation, analyze evidence, or do research, roll plus wits. And that's what we're trying to do. We are trying to see if there are any visual clues as to where Archer might have gone. So let's gather information, rolling plus wits. Okay, that's a miss. On a miss, it says your investigation unearths a dire threat or reveals an unwelcome truth that undermines your quest. Pay the price. Okay, so what is this going to be? Now, the miss should definitely tell us something, that's for sure, and that something should be bad, right? So should we ask the Oracle on the pay the price table? Let's do that. Okay, so what have we got? 10. You create an opportunity for an enemy. Okay, so as far as we know, Luna doesn't have any enemies here, although it's a kind of a pretty hard-nosed place. Everyone is a potential enemy, I suppose. But create an opportunity? Well, okay, what if whoever took Archer was actually tracking the Eclipse and its crew? And what if that bounty hunter was not the only one to get that information? Maybe there is a bunch of people who have the info, a bunch of people who have been tracking them all through the market, and whoever put the info out put it out to like a lot of people, and maybe a lot of people answered. So Archer was kind of snaffled up by this bounty hunter, this first one, but like maybe there are now more people here, more bounty hunters have shown up, and possibly these bounty hunters aren't, should we say, the creme de la creme of the bounty hunting world, and they weren't so quick off the mark, and they missed out on Archer. And Archer, I think everyone believes must be the main prize. We still don't know whoever it is who has put this info out or what they want, but they did, and someone, the bounty hunter, got to Archer first. But like I said, the info went out wide, and maybe there are some kind of less good kind of hired guns who have arrived on the scene, and Archer is gone. But now they're seeing Luna, who they've been tracking, and she's fair game, right? Like, maybe they can get a payout for her, and I mean, it's very much a maybe. The info probably insinuated that Archer was where the money was, the most valuable target, but these are opportunistic criminals. So they kind of see she came off the same ship, so maybe she'll be worth something, right? So that's what's happening. some hired guns have turned up, and I think they're just going to like straight try and make a grab, right? And they will kind of try and use the situation, use the environment, the kind of the hectic kind of like nature of this marketplace to their advantage. So first, let's work out how many hired guns are after her. So maybe kind of 3 or 4. I think maybe should we say 4? Yeah, and they're all armed. And probably, as we've established, they're not the brightest and best that Lastport has to offer. And I think they've just kind of been hanging back. They've been trying to blend in, just watching her, trying to keep their distance, not look too obvious. But in the kerfuffle of Archer being taken and Luna looking for him and Griff kind of doing this weird glitching out thing, they move in, they take their chance. And as Luna is up on the crate trying to get a better view of her surroundings, try and kind of see where Archer might be, she is just grabbed from behind, like arms around her waist, clamping her arms to her side. One of the hired guns has just like bear hugged her, like they're not subtle at all. But that is going to trigger a move for us, and I believe that move is Enter the Fray, which says when you initiate combat or are forced into a fight, envision your objective and give it a rank. If the combat includes discrete challenges or phases, set an objective with a rank for each. So Luna is going to have to get past these hired guns, and they are going to try and bring her in warm, I think. There's clearly a price they feel they can get for her, and I think they're desperate enough to kind of fight her all the way. So the objective for Luna here is going to be defeat the hired guns. And difficulty-wise, like these are low-level goons. That's clear. So like Luna would easily outmatch them kind of one-on-one. But we've got 4 of them. They are armed. Plus, this is all kind of unfamiliar turf for Luna. She is a fish out of water essentially here. Plus, also, she is injured, right? So that is all going to kind of play into it. So we can reflect those narrative disadvantages using the mechanics and make this a bit more challenging. So in terms of rank, this is going to be formidable. So we have come up with the objective and set our rank. Now let's make the move. It says roll to see if you are in control, and then we've got plenty of options here, and we're definitely caught in a trap. So this is going to be rolling plus wits. But we also have an ability on Luna's brawler asset that reads: when you enter the fray, already positioned in close quarters against your foe, mark progress on a hit. On a strong hit with a match, your initial assault leaves them stunned. Also, take +2 momentum. So, like being jumped doesn't play into Luna's strengths, but the asset helps us out a bit. So let's enter the fray, rolling plus wits. That is a weak hit. So it says, on a strong hit, take both. And on a weak hit, we get to choose one. So we can choose either +2 momentum, or we can be in control. So momentum or control. Always a tough choice, because momentum is an incredibly valuable resource, especially so in kind of combat situations in a fight. But also being in control is incredibly strong. You get to dictate the terms, and it's easier to like achieve your objective if you are in control. But I'm actually going to choose the momentum, which firstly puts us up to 5. But I'm choosing that because I don't feel like narratively it's right to be in control in this situation, because like she's just been jumped. She has just been kind of ambushed in this strange, unfamiliar, busy marketplace. It's noisy and disorientating, and whilst Luna is like pretty tasty in a fight, she is certainly not the type to kind of go icy veined and laser focused like a samurai the moment like shit gets real. Like she's a slugger, and she's going to have to use her kind of streetwise skills to scrap her way out of this situation. So the momentum is nice, but we do begin the fight on the back foot. We are very much in a bad spot. But because we rolled a hit, we get to mark progress because of our asset, which takes us up to 1 out of 10. So let's envision this. Luna is scouring the market for any sign of Archer, looking for that kind of telltale orange jacket amidst all the browns and greys of this drab place. And she's balancing up on this crate to get a better view and struggling to see through the crowds and the commotion. But she can see Griff, who is kind of weaving his way through the crowds, heading towards somewhere, who knows where. But he's slow, so he can't get too far away. But where the hell is Archer? And as that thought is running through her mind, that's when she suddenly feels a pair of thick arms wrap around her waist and pull her backwards, pull her off the crate. And her legs are flailing wildly as her assailant pulls her downwards, and her feet don't even touch the ground as she is kind of lifted and swung around. And she tries to push back against the person manhandling her, but has nothing to push against. She can't get her arms free, and she's kind of bucking and turning and trying to wriggle loose. And I think that the crowd around her kind of quickly starts to clear, and because of that, she can see the other hired guns moving in, and they are all dressed in kind of mismatched, kind of cobbled together, piecemeal kind of spacer gear, pretty nondescript and unassuming, because that's how they've got to look if they try and blend in. They've all got their faces covered with scarves or masks or goggles or respirators, whatever. Because whilst there's nothing aesthetically to distinguish them as hired guns, their kind of vibe reflects the fact that they are clearly here for violence. And as she can see, they're armed. Two of them have these kind of like electric shock kind of stun batons, kind of like a 2 foot long kind of tasery type pole. And the other one at the back has a more crude weapon. Let's say it's kind of like a hunk of rusty pipe. But the one thing that she does realize is that they all have pistols in holsters at their hips. So this could go south real quick. And the progress that we got from our asset, that one progress we got, I think that this is what that represents. Luna has been blindsided, sure, but what's happened is all the hired guns have moved in perhaps like a beat too early, like a bit too eagerly, and while she may be being held, being restrained, they've showed their hand. They have shown themselves, and she's got a good look at exactly who they are and who she's up against and what the situation is. And Luna has been in many, many street fights like this, and that split second sizing up the surroundings and the odds might just give her something. So what's she going to do? Well, I think she's going to kind of try and get free first, because, you know, she is being held and she's at the mercy of everyone else. So, you know, she doesn't want to get zapped with these stun batons, because if that happens, then that'll be trouble. So what she's going to do is she is going to try and kind of wriggle and writhe as best as she can to try and kind of spin the brute that's holding her around, hopefully unbalance them and kind of push them towards the others. And that's going to be a move. And that move is going to be react under fire, which says when you're in a bad spot and take action in a fight to avoid danger or overcome an obstacle, envision your approach and roll. And what will this be? I mean, it could be kind of any of these, but I think diverting with force sounds about right. So let's react under fire, rolling, plus iron. That is another miss. So it says on a miss, the situation worsens. You stay in a bad spot and must pay the price. So this is clearly going great. The situation has worsened, has it? It's got worse than being bear hugged by a brute whilst two other people come in and try and like zap her with electricity and another one clubs her with a pipe. It doesn't feel like it can get much worse, but here we are. So I think what I'm going to say is, I think with all her kind of wriggling around and kind of like her, you know, trying to get free, I think what she actually does, like, turn the brute around, turns her away from the others who are approaching. But what that does is just makes her face the other way. And as some of the kind of the patrons in the market kind of back away from this ruckus, she can see two more people. These seem different to the hired guns that are assailing her right now. These are kind of more heavy set. These are two big thugs who do not seem to be with the others. But I think what Luna has realised very quickly is happening is that these two thugs have looked upon this attempted kidnapping and quickly made up their mind that, hey, that person these people are trying to grab must be valuable, so maybe they want a piece of the action. So we could say that the situation has worsened, and it's worsened to the degree that whereas before there was one group of people trying to kidnap Luna, now there are two. And in terms of paying the price, I don't think we've managed to advance the struggle at all with that last move. So because we're still trapped in the clutches of this brute, what we're going to do is we're going to reflect that by losing some momentum. So back down to 4. So that didn't work. And yes, things are getting much worse. These new thugs are moving in. And I think that the brute that's holding Luna notices and like just grips on even tighter, and Luna can feel like the air being squeezed out of her. And as the kind of market patrons around are kind of sensing what's going down, they scatter, like not through kind of fear, more like self-preservation, because this is the sort of place where this sort of thing goes down all the time. And as the crowds part, now she can see Griff and disappearing into a throng of people up ahead. Like, she needs to catch up with him, but she can't do that until she gives these hired guns the slip. So let's try another approach. I think Luna is going to have to try and kind of fight back. I think she is going to try and yank a hand free. So she just has something that she can swing with, something that she can protect herself with. She can try and use that free hand to hit anyone in range. So she's fighting back. So this is going to be another move. This is going to be the move Clash, which says when you're in a bad spot and fight back against a foe at close quarters, roll plus iron. If you exchange fire at a distance, roll plus edge. So this is going to be Clash rolling plus iron. Oh, okay, our luck turns a little bit. That is a strong hit. On a strong hit, it says you mark progress twice, you overwhelm your foe, and you are in control. So that is something. So let's first mark progress. That's up to 3. And I think what happens here is that as the kind of brute that's holding Luna sees the two thugs coming in to join the fight, kind of aware that their prize might be in jeopardy, they swing Luna back around towards the other hired guns. And like Luna in this moment kind of realizes just how big and powerful and kind of strong the person holding her must be, because she's just being like tossed around like a rag doll, like effortlessly. But she kind of feels a slight loosening of the grip as they spin around, and she manages to kind of pull her left arm free, and it times with the kind of arrival of one of the hired guns. Like just as they reach Luna and the brute with the stun baton, she manages to get her left arm out, and she manages to be able to use the momentum of being swung around to just kind of stick out an elbow, which makes clean kind of solid contact with this hired gun's jaw and sends them stumbling backwards. Like finally she's been able to strike a blow, but the others are closing in, and quick as a flash, she sees yet another stun baton coming her way, and she's got an arm free now. And when you're Luna, that is kind of all the advantage you need. Well, like, we're no longer in a bad spot, but like as this is playing out, I kind of feel like it's kind of fun to be mechanically in control of this fight, but narratively we're still being held by one of our assailants. I think that's like quite a funny scenario. And that's what's happening. Like we're still in this bear hug, but we've got a hand free. And I've got this ability on the brawler asset that I thought would actually come quite nicely into play here. It says, when you gain ground by attempting to disarm, trip, shove, grapple, or stun your foe, add +1 and take +1 momentum on a hit. So I think that as this second hired gun comes in with the stun baton, I think I'm going to try and wrestle it out of their hand as they come in. So to trigger this ability, we need to make a move, and that move is gain ground, which says when you're in control and take action in a fight to reinforce your position or move towards an objective, envision your approach and roll. And I think that forcibly disarming them is going to be gaining leverage with force. So we are going to gain ground, rolling, plus iron. Okay, even with the +1, that is still only a weak hit, but that will kind of do. It says on a hit you stay in control, and on a strong hit you get to choose 2 of the options. On a weak hit we choose 1. So of those options, we'll leave the momentum because we do take a +1 momentum from that brawler asset. So that's fine. That takes us back up to 5. So now the choice is, I mean, we could take some more momentum if we really want, or do we mark progress or take +1 on our next move? And I think that we'll take the +1 on the next move, because as this second hired gun comes in to stun Luna, the brute kind of holding her swings her around to face them. So she'll be like a much easier target to hit. But once again, like swinging her around only gives her momentum, and she uses that momentum and her free hand to snatch at the stun baton. And the motion of that plucks it out of the hired gun's hands and sends them stumbling to the ground. So now Luna has a weapon, and she is immediately going to use that weapon to zap the brute holding her to finally get free. She spins the baton round and turns it towards herself. At the end of its tip there is crackling static, and it's about to make contact with the thick, hulking arms that have her clamped in a vice-like grip. So we are in control now, and if we are in control, we will make the move Strike, which says when you're in control and assault a foe at close quarters, roll +iron. So let's strike, rolling, +iron. Again, even with the extra buff, that is still only a weak hit. And it says on a weak hit, you mark progress twice, which is great, but you expose yourself to danger. You are in a bad spot. So let's deal with the mechanics first and mark progress twice. So that takes us up to 5 out of 10, but we are in a bad spot again. So what's happened? So I think the stun baton finds its mark, and the wrists of the brute, who has had her in this bear hug all this time, just kind of like, even through like their kind of thick flight jacket, thick kind of like clothing, the baton kind of snaps and cracks as it makes contact, and it forces Luna to drop the baton, and it forces the brute to just drop her. And she lands on her ass like with a thud, and it's ungainly and it's uncomfortable as the kind of impact of hitting the ground reverberates up her spine and down the brace around her leg. And she turns, kind of spins around on the floor to see the giant hulking brute, a mountain of a man, even more kind of big and heavy set than she imagined. He's kind of got these wide shoulders and neck that's all that kind of like one piece, and has this long wispy grey beard that kind of pokes out from under what looks like a kind of executioner's cowl. And he is shaking off that kind of jolt. And now with the 2 separate thugs who have joined the fight behind him, he starts to move in towards her, and he draws a ugly looking machete-like blade from his belt. And Luna turns around to see the other hired guns, the one that she kind of hit with her arm, and the one that she disarmed, and the third, who is now leaving his rusty pipe on the floor in favour of a pistol that he has drawn. So she is in a spot of bother. And she's very much going to have to take evasive action to get out of harm's way here. So I think what we'll do is try and use the environment to our advantage and get out of the firing line. So Luna kind of scrabbles kind of quickly, but also awkwardly because of her leg. She gets up to her feet, her leg brace making it very difficult. And I think that there's like this kind of cleaning or maintenance droid, like Lastport's version of like a gonk droid, and it's kind of nearby. And as she kind of moves past it, she pushes it towards the nearest enemies, the hired guns, and uses the momentum of that to push herself forward and dive over one of the market stalls. So this is going to be very much, again, reacting under fire. And this time we are very much going to be fleeing, dodging, or taking cover. So let's react under fire, rolling, plus edge. That's another weak hit. So not what I wanted, but here we are. On a weak hit, you avoid the worst of the danger or overcome the obstacle, but not without a cost. Make a suffer move, -1. You stay in a bad spot, which is frustrating. Okay, so I think that she pushes off the droid and launches herself kind of towards the market stall. And as she does, she feels the air around her heat with laser fire. Guns have now been drawn, and this is getting out of hand. And she crashes onto this kind of trestle table, and it's like a stall selling like mechanical bits, and as she lands onto it, she kind of sends all the parts kind of flying everywhere, and she goes kind of tumbling over the other side. And as she does, she kind of feels her neck stinging in this hail of gunfire, like they nicked her. And as she hits the table and kind of rolls over it, she pulls it over for cover and kind of hunkers down behind it with the terrified merchant who is like kind of still on their stall. It's an elderly woman, and their face is kind of caked in grease and oil. Lord knows how long she's been hawking her mechanical wares in this place. And now Luna has sent her livelihood scattering everywhere, and people are now shooting at her stall. It's not a good day for this merchant. And the merchant covers her head with her hands as the sparks from the gunfire rain down. And Luna brings her fingers to her neck and then takes them away and looks at the sticky blood on her fingertips as she winces with pain. And I think we'll take a hit to our health here as our suffer move. So we'll bump our health down to 4. So she is in trouble. The hired guns clearly didn't expect her to put up a fight, and they've probably figured out that they ain't going to subdue her so easily, so they're going to try and wound her to bring her in. I think that's the only way they can kind of bring her in alive. Now, Luna is in kind of no mood to find out if that's true, so she shrugs her rifle off her shoulder and flicks off the safety. And I think she's just going to try and kind of lean out of cover and squeeze off a burst of fire, and at least try and kind of push them back, give herself some space. She only saw pistols, so like she has them outgunned, even though they have her pinned down. We don't have control, we're in a bad spot, so we'll be fighting back, and this will be clash, and this time we'll be exchanging fire at a distance. So rolling plus edge. Okay, another weak hit. Sense a theme emerging here. On a weak hit, mark progress, but you are dealt a counterblow or setback. You stay in a bad spot and must pay the price. So up to 6 on the progress now. So let's envision this. Okay, she leans out of cover, and she shoots off a few bursts in the direction of the oncoming thugs. Then she spins to spray some fire towards the hired guns, and it sends them scrabbling for cover, like ducking behind pillars, diving to the ground. And the last burst of gunfire that she kind of squeezed off wings one of the hired guns, kind of clips him in the shoulder, and they fall to the ground. And one of their other comrades kind of leans out of cover and drags them to safety. And the market around them has completely emptied. Like, folks here are used to kind of like rough and tumble, but the gunfire has made them think better of like being out here. So they've all gone to like get a cup of tea and wait till this blows over. So for now, it's just Luna, the brute, the thugs, and the hired guns, and the merchant. And of the hired guns, she has tagged one of them, but she's still surrounded. She has completely lost sight of Griff in the chaos, and she will remain pinned down if she doesn't think of something. So her being pinned down, I will once again reflect by taking a hit to our momentum as I'll pay the price. So that is down to 4. So what on earth are we going to do here? That is a great question. Well, I'm playing Luna. So maybe what I should think about and how I should approach this is why don't I try and work out what Archibald would do and just do the opposite. That is the way that maybe we can try and solve these problems. Like Archer would try and maybe create a diversion or a distraction of some sort, maybe use the environment to his advantage, change the odds, change the plan. In essence, he'd try and kind of think his way out of it. And Luna ain't going to do that. So what's the opposite? Well, she does have her enemies kind of pushed back slightly with that kind of burst of fire, and she did take one out. So she does have sort of like a brief window here to do something. So why not try and press home what might be a very slim advantage by charging headlong into the fray? It's the last thing I think they would expect, so I think that's what we're going to do. So I think that in this kind of moment of relative quiet between the gunfire, she can hear the hired guns kind of talking to each other as they reload and kind of rethink their plan. And she can't really hear what they're saying. It's kind of muffled instructions that she can't quite make out. And she's trying to figure out what to do. And she looks up at the wall behind the stall, and there's kind of like these engine parts hanging, and in the reflection of like one of these chrome engine parts that's hanging there, she can see the hulking frame of the brute moving slowly in on her position. She only has a second or so to react. It is now or never. So she steels herself and kind of keeps watching that reflection of the brute approaching. At first, it was just kind of like this dark shape, this kind of looming mass, but now she can see him clearly. He has his machete raised. This is it. And she pushes her good foot into the wall and braces. And then, with all her might, pushes herself and the table that she has been using for cover backwards, slamming into the legs of the brute. So this is once again going to be react under fire, but this time we are going to be diverting with force. So let's do it rolling plus iron. And leaning into our strong suit, we finally managed to roll a strong hit. It says on a strong hit, you succeed and are in control. Take +1 momentum. Excellent. That is what we wanted. Back in control, most importantly, plus a little bit of bonus momentum, which takes us back up to 5. So this brute is sent cartwheeling over the table, caught by surprise and completely off balance, and falls forwards. And he just face plants into the ground, and the noise his head makes as it smashes into the concrete could best be described as like a heavy, hollow thud. And he is just not moving. For how long? Who knows? But Luna needs to make this momentary advantage count. So we are going to try and reposition. We are going to try and get out of the crossfire and get ourselves into a position where we can take someone out and even the odds. So we are going to make the move, gain ground, and I think this is going to be maneuvering, so we will be rolling plus edge. That is a weak hit. A weak hit on gain ground is absolutely fine. So on a weak hit, we get to take one of the following, and I'm definitely going to take the momentum because I feel like the tide is maybe turning. So we're up to 7 now, and let's envision it. She is still sitting. Her back is to the upturned table, and she has in front of her the seemingly lifeless form of the brute just kind of laying there. And she digs her feet into the brute's body and again pushes herself and the table sliding backwards. But this time she kind of manages to kind of lean into it and use her rifle a bit to spin herself around. So the table is actually still shielding her from the thugs on the other side, but it actually leaves her like totally open and exposed and at the mercy of the hired guns who have been hiding behind this kind of thick concrete pillar. But they are kind of caught off guard at the sight of Luna kind of pushing herself into the line of fire like this. They are stunned even because they don't even have time to react before they realize that Luna is aiming her rifle straight at them. So we are in control, so we are going to strike again, but we are actually going to use our gunner asset here. The first ability reads, when you strike, choose one before rolling. Either pin them down, which is add +1 and take +1 momentum on a hit, or make them hurt, which is mark progress on a hit, which is very powerful. We will actually go for the first option here. I think we're going to try and pin them down, which gives us the +1 and the extra momentum on a hit. So let's strike once again, rolling, plus edge. And that is a strong hit. On a strong hit, you mark progress twice, you dominate your foe and stay in control. So our progress goes up to 8 out of 10. We are getting to the business end of this combat. Okay, so let's envision this. Luna is like, she is in no position to be in this fight. She is essentially sat on the floor in front of 2 armed assailants who are in cover and have her like banged to right. She is like a sitting duck. But fortune favours the brave, and right now the brave is aiming a high-powered rifle and pulling the trigger. And she just lights the area up, kind of spraying them with gunfire, and the first hired gun doesn't act anywhere near quick enough and slumps to the ground before they can even flinch. The other hired gun gets an extra second or so to try and react, but it's again just not quick enough before they can duck back into cover. The torrent of fire that Luna unleashes kind of sends chunks of plaster and debris from the pillar they're hiding behind everywhere, but manages to catch them in the shoulder and the chest, and they are sent flying backwards. So Luna quickly sizes up the situation and realizes that these two are sufficiently kind of out of the fight, so turns her attention towards the thugs. She gets up to a crouch and swings around, and now, obviously, she's kept this table with her the whole time. She is in cover and in a perfect firing position to take them out. So we are going to make another move now, and that move is take decisive action, which says when you seize an objective in a fight, envision how you take decisive action. Now, we have another ability on our gunner asset that reads, when you take decisive action by emptying your gun, again, decide before you roll, you may sacrifice resources and re-roll one challenge dice. And the risk is obviously running out of ammo, and we have to check our gear to find out if we've got more. Now, even though we are taking decisive action, and that would be very powerful, I don't think it makes a whole lot of narrative sense for Luna to just kind of go full kind of Tony Montana like this. Like, she's bold and she's reckless sometimes, but I don't know, that kind of seems like a bit mindless. And she hasn't taken leave of her senses. Like, she realizes and understands, and the reason that she's winning this fight is that she is in a good position and understands that she's in cover and she can take advantage of it. And I think that she is much more likely in this situation to, instead of just kind of going gung-ho and unleashing everything she's got, that she would kind of take her time to make sure her aim is true and kind of take them out with like a few controlled bursts. So that is what she's going to do. She's going to take aim and fire. They do not have any cover like the hired guns had, but they are much further away. She lines up her shot and takes it. So we have 8 progress. That is what we are rolling against. So let's take decisive action. Well, I really probably should have emptied my gun, right? Because that is a weak hit, and I could have had a chance to re-roll that into something better, but hey ho. I made my choice and I stand by it. Okay, it says, on a weak hit, you achieve your objective, but not without costs. Roll on the table below or choose one. Okay, and so if the fight continues, you're in a bad spot. The fight doesn't continue, I'm going to say it's over. But what is the cost? Looking at the table, I don't want to roll because one has jumped out right away. It gets complicated. The true nature of a foe or objective is revealed. Okay, so we've got that. Let's envision everything, then tie it together. So Luna hits one of the thugs, but not like clean enough to take them out. And she's kind of disappointed with herself and kind of sees them hit the floor and kind of, they're not wounded severely enough to stop them kind of scrabbling around for the pistol they've just dropped. And she realizes that she can't chance it, so fires again, and this time puts them out of action for good. But the extra few seconds it took for Luna to fire again is all the other thug needs to turn and run. And Luna kind of swings over to them and tries to kind of hit them with a ragged burst of gunfire, which is, less precise this time. But it doesn't find its mark, and they duck down an alley between the stalls, and they're gone. So Luna is now in this place where they know nobody, totally alone. Archer has been taken and Griff has disappeared. She is now alone among the carnage of a firefight. She is struggling to comprehend who were these people? Who were they working for? Why her? She wants answers, and she's going to try and get them. So she moves over to the hired guns, keeping her gun trained on them, moving in slowly. The first isn't moving, but the second groans weakly as they lay on their front. Luna moves in and uses her foot to roll them onto their back. And it's obvious they are in a bad way. They took a couple of hits to the chest and shoulder. Their breathing is ragged and laboured, and Luna lowers her gun because she sees they can barely lift their hands to beg for mercy, let alone strike back in retribution. She crouches down and pulls the scarf that was covering their face down to reveal a young woman, not much older than her. Her already pale skin is getting paler by the second. Blood trickles down from her mouth and nose. She looks frightened, terrified that whatever remains of her short, brutal life might be about to be filled with yet more suffering. And Luna knows this life. The life on Rust that she fled when she stowed away from Archer's ship. That life is hard. But she doesn't feel bad for what she just did. You have to do what it takes to survive out here, and it was Luna or these goons. And to Luna, there ain't no choice at all. She looks at the woman and says, "Why me?" And the woman weakly motions to the pocket on her jacket. Luna reaches in and takes out a thin device with a small yellow screen. She touches the screen and it comes to life with a picture of an Outbounder-class vessel and a description both of the Eclipse and of Archer. And Luna looks at it and says, "Who sent you?" But the woman has gone, slipped away. Yet another pointless death in an unforgiving galaxy. Luna gets up and walks back over to the others to see if there's anyone else who can shed some light on things, but they're gone. They're all gone. She looks again at the device, scrolling back through until she can find what she's looking for, until she finds the details of who might have sent them after her. And she does. But she looks confused. And the merchant, whose stall Luna wrecked as she leapt over it, comes out from where she was hiding. Luna sees her and says, "Hey!" The merchant instantly throws up her hands in surrender. But Luna doesn't raise a gun. She raises a question. She looks at the screen, then back at the merchant, and says, "Okay, so who the fuck is the Anvil?" Thank you a million times. Thank you for watching. Please like this video, subscribe if you've not done so already, and click the little bell icon so you can be notified as soon as the next video drops. And please do check out the Bad Spot Patreon, where you can find all kinds of cool perks and really support the work I'm doing. I'll be back next week, but until then, it's farewell and safe passage.